All right. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Here to talk a little bit of women's soccer in hot Miami. I'm Jeff Kasu, founder of the Equalizer, equalizersoccer.com, digital media outlet covering women's soccer exclusively. I've worked at NBC on Premier League and MLS, but here to talk women's soccer, and specifically the Women's World Cup is the big one that's looming. So really excited to have this panel with a diverse mix of experience across the world of soccer and women's soccer in particular. Got Amanda Duffy with us, the managing director of operations for the National Women's Soccer League. Extensive experience in the women's game, previously with Louisville City as well, who just won another USL title. I'm sure that's a point of celebration for you. And previously in the USL offices and with NWSL for the last 2 years. Got Pedro Malabia, who is the women's football director at La Liga, working on growing the first division top flight of women's soccer in Spain, particularly alongside with the iconic La Liga men's brand, which we'll talk about as well, and previously head of women's football competition with FIFA. We've got Karina LeBlanc with us, extensive career with, yeah, there you go.
Karina.
Extensive career with Canada in net, 2012 bronze medalist, played World Cup on home soil a few years ago, and she's now the head of women's football at CONCACAF, which is a newly created position that we'll talk about as well, growing the game in CONCACAF. And then we have Mike Golub from Portland. Yeah. From Portland Timbers and Thorns organization, 30 years of experience at the highest levels.
I started when I was 5.
Helped guide the Timbers into the MLS era and obviously the Thorns into NWSL, which started in 2013. So really excited to have a really good mix of folks to talk here. Wanted to first start with obviously the looming World Cup a few months away now in France. So Canada 2015, as a lot of you know, was one of was the biggest Women's World Cup yet in terms of teams, expanded to 24. Huge numbers, 25 million watching on Fox in the U.S. And the 2019 Women's World Cup expected to be bigger and better, certainly on the field as well. So looking at the Women's World Cup, Amanda, starting with you, the commercial opportunity as we're talking about here today, from your perspective at a league level, what kind of opportunity in general for the league do you see as it relates to the Women's World Cup commercially, and even just the opportunity for the women's game in general around the World Cup?
Yeah, so we go into 2019 in a much stronger position with the Women's World Cup because of the 2015 Women's World Cup and having the data now to support our initiatives next year. And the metrics that showed us the visibility, that showed us the attendance increases, and then the commercial opportunities, the sponsorship opportunities that fell in behind that. So as we look at 2019, we look at how do we want to maximize what we learned from 2015 and are positioning our calendar, our competition calendar to be able to take advantage of the visibility and the what we see is a positive ticket revenue impact on the backside of the Women's World Cup. So we'll shape our calendar to benefit there. We also know with that visibility, we'll be looking at partnerships that we can enter into new agreements that are going to be looking at NWSL, whether we've already been engaged in those conversations or because of the visibility the Women's World Cup brings domestically and globally, it will increase our opportunities and what we're able to explore. So we'll look both from the partnership from a local standpoint with ticket sales and also with our broadcast and driving more viewers and more fans to watch NWSL as we do have our lifetime game of the week each week. So we'll want to take advantage to push our ratings and viewership there.
Yeah, always a big year for the league and a Women's World Cup year, typically a bounce in attendance and just overall interest that you've seen? Is that how are you sort of building into that to be prepared for that commercially and just in general with knowing that that's coming?
Well, we'll work with our partners. We do a lot of our activation in the digital space, so we'll work with them to coexist in any campaigns that we're working with. We'll of course have our own lead up to NWSL lead up to the Women's World Cup. We'll work closely with U.S. Soccer Federation and Canadian Soccer Association, two associations that we work very closely with on the business side and have a lot of their national team players in the league. And on the competition side, we have more than 50 players from the 2015 Women's World Cup. There were more than 50 players that were a part of the tournament. And so when we have those players that are also able to provide visibility, access, and information to the fans that are watching the game and to support NWSL coming back into the league after the tournament will be one that we want to take advantage of as well.
And you speak of players, Karina, you were part of that 2015 World Cup on home soil for Canada. You came back to the NWSL afterward. What is the opportunity from a player perspective of this World Cup, where in the men's game you have a player who's big at his club, obviously gets a lot of attention on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, but for the women, for some of them, this is a once every 4 years opportunity to have a platform, particularly commercially even.
Yeah, I think it's the biggest thing for an athlete, especially a women's athlete. I mean, when I first started, there was about 8 people in the stands, and to retire at a home World Cup in front of a sold-out stadium and see kids wearing your jerseys, it's what you live for, and I think it's an opportunity. Like you said, FIFA doubled the prize money, but even for a girl, it's not about the money. It's about the opportunity. It's about the access. It's about the ability to put your jersey on. Our coach had always said there's 2 types of people who get to put that flag on their heart: those that protect the country and those that inspire the country. And I think in the women's game, you truly take that to heart. You want to inspire your country. You know that you have the ability to inspire the next generation, and then also draw more people to the game. I mean, thank you all for showing up here for the women's platform, especially CONCACAF and the Prince. But it's important to start showing up for the women's game, and I think people have the idea that there's something great there, but when you go, you see the girls at the end signing the autographs, because as players, you know the importance of that extra 5 seconds with that young girl. She now believes, because she looks like you, or she believes she can be something, and I think that's the power of the World Cup. It brings the world together, and the Women's World Cup, it brings the world together to see what women can really do.
And you mentioned people showing up. We've seen incredible response already to ticket sales in France. Lyon, for the semis, the final, is sold out the group allotment pretty quickly. Pedro, I'm wondering, from your perspective, what kind of activation are you seeing in general in Europe? What kind of interest are you seeing with the World Cup being in France and the commercial opportunities around the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, for Spain, it's a really good opportunity to keep supporting all this project that we started 3 years ago, because we've been working really hard on building the fan base, building the people following women's football in Spain, and of course having the World Cup in France, which is our neighbor country, with the big success of our national team, which is really developing well, has done a real good qualifying rounds. We believe this is the big opportunity for us to FIFA Women's World Cup will really help to grow this fan base and to also launch the interest of these girls, of these families who are now supporting Spanish football, also to look at the Women's World Cup, to look in the national team. And of course, it will depend, I mean, it does not depend on the sporting success, but we are also hoping that the Spanish national team will do quite well, and this will help. I mean, Spain is a country that needs such events, to follow. We remember when the Formula One with Fernando Alonso 15 years ago, no one was interested in Formula One, and then Fernando Alonso appeared, and then the whole country was crazy for that. So for us, it's a perfect moment 3 years after the start of the project to keep on creating this fan base, and this was, of course, will help for the next year in Spain.
Yeah, and Spain perhaps a dark horse to watch for a deeper run in the tournament. I'm sure you're hoping for that.
Yeah.
A lot of Euro titles at the U17, 19 levels of late. Mike, in general, in this World Cup, and obviously you're looking at it from maybe a club perspective for you guys in Portland, but what do you see as just kind of the biggest opportunity commercially with this tournament?
Sure. Let me first start. The same response that Karina got today. You played in Portland 4 years ago. If she walked through the streets of Portland today, she'd get the same response. He's Pied Piper of women's soccer. We'll have 8 or 9, perhaps 10 players competing in France from our club. So nearly half of our roster will be in France, and it's a great opportunity for us. We are structuring as a league, as Amanda said, nearly half of our league schedule post-World Cup. So there'll be a great opportunity to leverage the exposure that our collective group of players will have in France. Not surprisingly, NWSL markets over-index in terms of women's soccer viewership. So Portland's no exception. So we'll have a disproportionate number of people watching the games. And any club who are smart stewards of their brand are already thinking about the opportunities that the World Cup presents. And so we think, even though we're incredibly well attended, the Thorns are as it is, we think we'll see big bumps on attendance post-World Cup. The media coverage, which is already strong in the market, we think will only increase. And so it's a remarkable opportunity for all of our clubs to leverage just unprecedented exposure for our athletes.
And we'll definitely come back to the success story that is Portland shortly. We're going to leave a little bit of time for questions at the end too, if you guys have them. But shifting to the league sort of front, Amanda, talk about the Women's World Cup bump. We've heard about it throughout the various leagues of a rising tide and the attention on the league after the team comes back. The U.S. winning in 2015 certainly was a nice bonus for the NWSL. How do you plan to capture long-term interest, to retain that interest that we see in such large numbers during the tournament, that, you know, even if you can get that percentage of those folks to care on that weekly basis? What are you guys working on to do that?
Sure. I think a lot of that work and the longevity and retention of fans that you capture that are coming in after a tournament such as the Women's World Cup happens at the local level, and it's engaging with those fans in a unique way that allow them to have an experience at NWSL matches that they want to come back to, and see an environment and a culture within those clubs that they want to be a part of that's relevant and also that's authentic. And I think with the players, one of the really strong parts of the women's game is that you can connect to these athletes, these world-class athletes, and they're authentic individuals. And so as the clubs really think about next year, and as the league thinks about next year, and how to really maximize the opportunity that we have every 4 years, it's how do we get the new fan coming to NWSL games, and how do we get them to come back? And I think that so much work is on the local level in connection with the fans. At the same time, we have to do that work with our national partners as well. And as we look to build through our NWSL media arm, look to build our portfolio of national partners that want to support the league and want to support the players, we have to do the same in terms of bringing them to these matches, engaging them with our clubs, with the markets, and with the players, and with what we're doing in the growth of women's soccer to build this sport and to build the women's game.
And a similar challenge for you, Pedro, with La Liga. Why don't we start with the video? You have a quick video for us that Pedro wanted to share on La Liga and how they're building toward a sustainable future, and particularly through digital initiatives and partnerships with iconic men's clubs as well. So let's take a quick look at the video there.
No, that's not the video. That's not the video.
It's not La Liga.
That's not the right one.
Not the right one.
Hola a todos los
I think we need a different, wrong
Soy Leo
video.
Messi. Espero que disfruten juntos del partido. Así que prepárense con sus amigos y familiares y disfruten del
We
juego.
got the wrong video on that one, yeah. So wrong video. Thank you to Messi, though. I recently, a big moment when he tweeted about the Argentine women's national team in the playoff as they just qualified. So,
Pardon me?
Messi tweeting about the Argentina women's national team is
Yeah, that's huge.
a
I mean,
new.
you see it. You see the power of it. I mean, when the Jamaican girls just qualified the first ever World Cup, it's huge. And Usain Bolt tweeted. It helps the conversation start because it gets different people viewing, talking about the game, and it's huge. I mean, if Lionel Messi's talking about girls, we know we've done something right. Because I know, like growing up, when I grew up, a lot of my role models were males, and now you're bringing that audience to the women's game because he respects it, and it's huge. I'm sad because they beat one of our MAs, which is Panama. But again, it's showing how the conversation has really shifted in Panama. I mean, we had the goalkeeper Bailey. She became a sensation when she went home on Twitter and Instagram. She's a big name now, and it's because of competitions, and you get to see these young girls playing, and it's also given them an opportunity to really grow.
Yeah, small step for Messi to be tweeting about the women's team, but I know that folks in Argentina I spoke with said that was actually a new thing. So I'm excited about that. Can we retry the video?
Not yet.
No video.
No video.
No, I don't know.
video.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about the men's tie-in that you want to speak about. That 31 La Liga clubs that are among the biggest ones. Barcelona, probably the biggest of the bunch that has had success in Women's Champions League. You guys have really seen success in the tie-in of the men's clubs taking interest in the women's clubs. How has that come about? I know we spoke previously that it's really about incentivizing, not forcing anybody to do anything. Let's talk about the success of that model.
Yeah, I mean, us in La Liga, as you all know, La Liga is responsible for men's football, first and second division. But 3 years ago, our president decided that we had the responsibility also towards women's football. Women's football in Spain is ruled by the federation. Yeah, but we had several reasons, yeah, to really push women's football forward. And one of them was the number of clubs, of our men's clubs. They had a women's team during 2000. It was 2015. We had 19 that moment, and we decided that we had to do something to push women's football forward. And yeah, we decided to invest massively in visibility, invest also in defining the professionalization of the clubs. And we wanted to build the right environment in terms of professional women's football. We also invested very much in creating a product, a brand. This is our strategy. I mean, to create a brand that is named women's football. And finally, also on international expansion with many agreements around the world, with the Mayor, with the Nigerian women's football league, with the Nadeshiko league in Japan, also to work hand by hand in this kind of development. And yeah, you talked about forcing, not forcing. We decided that our responsibility was to create the best environment possible, so everyone wants to be there. And so far, I think we are being successful, because 3 years ago it was 19 teams, and now it's 31. I think now the clubs are trying to understand, starting to understand, that it's a new asset. Women's football, it's a new asset. It's an added value. And now the ones who have women's football, they understand they have two first teams, the first men's team and the first women's team, which brings more opportunities on the commercial side, on community, on being successful also on the pitch, because we find some of the clubs that maybe are not successful on the men's side, but are successful on the women's side, and it's the same crest, it's the same brand. So yeah, we're trying to help them to try to convince them that it should not be about spending money, but about investing money. So we are convincing them to say, okay, let's invest, and it will be worth in the future, and we can create a good model in Spain.
And that's 31 of the 42 La Liga teams, first and second division, that now have women's teams, which is up 12 from just a few years ago. In that video, we're going to show, I think is it Soy Futbolista? Is that the motto of the men's teams, the women's team together? We've seen it with FC Barcelona doing team pictures, team U.S. trips this summer for the ICC. They brought the women's team as well for a tour. That just kind of gets to the heart of what you're talking about.
Yeah, last year we created a campaign which was We Speak the Same Name. We speak the same game, sorry. It was about sitting down. It was a nice history, because we created a kind of interviews between men's professional players and female professional players, the same club, Barcelona or Valencia, Atletico Madrid. They were sitting down and talking about the same, about football, about their fears, about how they feel when they score the first goal, about what to do next, all these things. And it was like a 11-minute documentary in which we wanted to highlight that it's not about men or women, it's about players. And this is the second campaign that we launched this year, was Soy Futbolista, that is, I'm a player. Yeah, and we want also to highlight and to show society that they are players, they are professional players, they behave professional, and we are highlighting through one story per club how it has developed, how women's football is developing, how they feel in terms of, for example, an injured player who now never dreamed of having the whole medical service and 24 hours physios with them and having all this. So we want to highlight that they really need to be respected as professional athletes. And yeah, we're investing massively on the digital side and on women's empowerment, because we really believe on that. Yeah, we have to treat the product the same as on the men's side.
Yeah, I think you can certainly track the success of La Liga on the women's side with the recent success of the Spanish women's national team, and even Chile with some players over there who have succeeded, and Mexico, and some other CONCACAF countries as well have players over there. Karina, I wanted to talk on a confederation level, somewhat similar to a league, except you're responsible for a lot of federations and growing the women's game in so many countries in this region. Can you talk about your role? It's a new role, CONCACAF growing the women's game, what it entails, and how you're going about getting all of these countries, as she mentioned, Jamaica qualifying for their first World Cup in upset fashion recently. What does this job entail for you, and how are you approaching it?
So it's a new role, which is exciting, and I think for me the reason why I was so excited to take this opportunity is that I got to connect my purpose and my passion. And it's 41 countries, the North Americas, the Central Americas, and the Caribbean Islands, and it's to grow the women's game. And I think it's a beautiful challenge, because I get to be part of the beginning, and we get to be part of trying to tell this story that it's not a cost, but an opportunity. You know, the perception in a lot of these countries is not that women's football should be in, it should be just men's. But it's part of having that conversation and using the players' voices, as you said, to articulate what the game means to them, to articulate the difference the game has made to them. And I think I'm passionate about it because I was that shy young girl, which I know nobody ever believes, but grew up in Dominica, and it wasn't until I moved to Canada because I had the opportunity and access to play the game. So I don't know my strategy yet. It's the interesting thing is I think you must seek to understand before you want to be understood. And it's going into these MAs and having the conversations and seeing where the women's game is, and really diving into how can we make these small gains. And it does when you have success in clubs within our confederation, and exactly what you guys are doing. But I think it's changing the power of the game. It's not just on the field. It's what these women do off the field. You empower one girl, you empower a full community. And I think it's taking that mentality, showing what the women's game does do, because everybody here knows that women can play football, but then showing the power of it off the field. So I'm the head of women's football, and it's an amazing opportunity, and I'm excited about it.
Mm-hmm. And Jamaica qualifying for the first World Cup, for the World Cup for the first time on the women's side, as to say. Just real quickly, the stories there. You mentioned the stories with Kadisha Shaw, Bunny Shaw, as she's called, kind of took over the tournament recently. I mean, what kind of an opportunity? You've been on the ground in Jamaica recently, I think, even. Of what does that mean there?
Life-changing. You know, these girls, they grew up, and you know, the World Cup was almost a distance for them. That's what investing in the game, investing in these women have done. They qualified for the first ever World Cup. So the entire Caribbean nations, they can now see a girl that looks like them and believe I can go to the World Cup. And the stories, you know, we have women who've been through things where she's watched 3 or 4 of her brothers die right in front of her. And she tells the story of how going to the game just made her focus on something, and all she wanted to do was see her mother smile. And they had the CFU championships there. And what did she get to do? She said, the highlight for me was seeing my mother smile. It's so much more than the game. And the reggae girls are in now. Usain Bolt is tweeting it. And it's just that energy to the women's game. These girls are like, we're going to the World Cup. You know, it's something they dreamed of, but it's because of what the women's game's doing, what we're able to do now on the commercial side, find the sponsors to help support them. And it's different people stepping up now for the women's game. And I think that's the biggest change you see. It's not just the same people anymore. It's different people taking that chance, taking that opportunity, and being like, I want to be part of this in the beginning to see where we can go.
And just want to transition quickly. We'll give a run at the video here quickly. They said we're good to go. So you saw the We Speak the Same game there. Just really quickly, it kind of highlights the digital side you were talking about and the sort of collaboration on the men's and women's front.
Yeah, we really believe in. We also did some. You saw some. This we accept a challenge between National Women's Soccer League and us. With some, and we really believe on this. I mean, I don't think that National Women's Soccer League or the Japanese League are they are our partners. I mean, we are all together in this project, in this worldwide project of pushing women's football forward and of getting into this industry. Yeah, and we truly believe on this. We have, as I said, many agreements with different parts of the world in order to push forward. Maybe once help, and other times we can create some digital content. And we truly believe on the power of men and women working together for this.
And perhaps a leader in that space too here, worldwide even, is Portland as you look toward the Timbers and the Thorns. The Thorns just shy of 17,000 per game this season, fans per game. I think probably the standard bearer in the world in terms of environment for women's club soccer games. Mike, there's a lot of talk always about how do you replicate this. Walk us through the secret sauce of what is happening in Portland, that there's such an interest in women's soccer.
Well, thank you for the kind words. Yeah, it's for anybody who's been to a Thorns game, and Karina played for us, as I mentioned, it's really magical. Seeing the stands, the look and the twinkle in the eye of young women, it is really magical. I tell the story. I think it was our second year, and my wife and I went down to the Apple store in downtown Portland, and we were helped by a young man, maybe 22, 23, and he's sort of the quintessential Portland hipster. Picture, long hair, tattoos everywhere, nose ring, really kind of cool young man. And he didn't know I was with the club. And my wife said, "Are you a Timbers fan?" I said, yeah, I like the Timbers, but I'm really into the Thorns. And we looked at each other, we're onto something. Friend of mine's kid in second grade, they had to wear your favorite team jersey, any team, any sport, to class, second graders. So 11-year-olds, and a good number of young boys were wearing Thorns jerseys. So it's magical. So to your question, Jeff, how did we get there? You know, I really like what Pedro had to say. And Korean, it's not a cause. This is not women's football. Don't come to Thorns because it's women's football. Come to Thorns because they're amazing athletes playing at the highest level, and it's just great football. Be a fan of the badge and of the incredible athletes who represent the badge. That's the magic of it. And I think philosophically, we have 150 people on our staff. Every single person on our staff works on the Timbers and the Thorns. It's not the Thorns here and the Timbers there. We all live and breathe, are compensated and incentivized for the Timbers and the Thorns. On our business cards, Timbers and Thorns, on our hold message. And so philosophically, it sounds fundamentally obvious, but it's amazing how many clubs don't do that. We live and breathe the sort of equal footing that both teams are on. And we project that externally, and I think our fans react to that. And one of Karina's former teammates, Christine Sinclair, who's been one of the best women's soccer players in the world, and has been with us from the beginning. If she's asked about the Thorns, she'll say that we're treated equally to the Timbers, and I think we project that to the fans, and I think that's a big underlying reason why we've been so embraced.
Yeah, and given that, I mean, how possible do you think it is to replicate in other markets? The Utah Royals came into the league about a year ago. This is their first season. Literally studied your books to a degree to get an idea of how to go about the model.
Yeah, it's the same conversation we've had in the Major League Soccer side for years. It's the right ownership, the right facilities, the right infrastructure, the right amount of resources, and a degree of patience. Right? It's not going to happen overnight. It doesn't happen overnight for any league, right? We've just finished our 6th season. We are a young league, and as Korea said, we're a young sport globally. It's going to take time, but Salt Lake, Utah has been a great example. They about this time a year ago decided to join the league with all of 4 months to launch. But great owner who embraced it, great infrastructure and staff, great facility, and consequently they were averaging 8,000 or 9,000 fans a game. And only going to get better. So we think it is something that can be replicated in other markets. We're very encouraged by, and Amanda can talk about this, there are a number of markets and clubs, MLS, USL, and other clubs who are looking very hard at joining our league. And so we think The future for the league is very bright, and we think what you see in Portland is very possible elsewhere.
And Amanda, how does that shape the expansion conversations and even maybe conversations with current members of the league of that this is very possible? It's just a matter of investment, commitment. How's that sort of shaping the conversations you have?
Yeah, I think Mike touched on it really well, and everything about our conversations, our expansion conversations with current owners and with expansion prospects is about investing in the game, investing in the league, investing in the players, and it's valuable. It's invaluable to have Portland sit here as an aspirational business model that any owner can look at and try to identify and pull some elements from what Portland does and implement that within their own market, within their own infrastructure and organization. And we have that conversation a lot. All of our expansion prospects want to talk to the Portland organization, as we saw with Deloy Hansen in Utah when they came a part of the league. But it really is coming in with the mentality that it isn't a cause, it is a business, and there's an economic model with each owner and within each market that make the business work. And when we look at the ownership, their willingness and interest to really invest in that business and the women's game long term, not on a short term desire, the facilities that exist, the infrastructure that exists, human resource and otherwise, and their willingness to have that patience and build into a community, a presence and a relevance that matters. It's a part of our conversations, and I think what lead us to feel very, very confident about what's in store for NWSL.
Can I just say,
Yeah.
It's inspirational for clubs, but as players, it's the place you want to play. And I think it's leadership too, because whenever you walked in, everyone saw you as equal. And it's important to have that, because like walking into a stadium, and imagine 17,000 every week. They know your name, they have their chance, they have their jerseys on you. It's boys, it's girls, it's everybody. And I think it starts with the way they presented it to the city. From the get-go, it's presented to the city. This is your women's team. This is the team, and we won a championship that year. And we came back, and there was a parade. It went crazy, but again, it was the way that you guys presented it to the community, and it's a dream place for every single player. Every player, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's incredible. I was just out there for the final. I mean, Lindsey Horan is painted on the side of a building for winning MVP. It's just something truly special out there. So really incredible environment. Let's have a few minutes left. We wanted to take any questions as well, World Cup related, NWSL, La Liga, CONCACAF. One over here. I think there's a mic. Should be. Yeah. Mic? Yeah, yell it out.
The mic is over there.
Sprint! It's your Olympic moment. You got it, son.
Thank you. My question was concerning, so UEFA has recently separated out the assets on the women's side versus the men's side for the Euros and for the Champions League, which I think it's well past time that was done, but previously, when you became a sponsor of the men's Champions League, it was almost like, oh, and you get this as well. Whereas now, to the point about the equal footing, you will get the right brands now, you get the right partners who are coming into the women's game for the right reasons. So I had a quick question for Mike. With Portland, your team works together. I mean, as you said, when you go to Providence Park, the signage is the same for the women's and the men's, and you have that equalness and the inclusivity. What differences have you seen on the commercial side, working with partners both on the Thorns as well as the Timbers, because different sponsors are wanting different things? Can you talk a little bit about what type of partners are very much focused on the women's game versus the men's game?
Yes, thank you. It was an interesting evolution. When we first came out, we were unproven property and an unproven league. So we had some challenging conversations. We also had a lot of existing partners with the Timbers, because obviously the Timbers had pre-existed. But it was interesting. There were a number of companies, IKEA, for example, Mini Cooper, for example. Those were two brands that we were trying for several years to bring in the fold for the Timbers unsuccessfully. And with the Thorns, we were able to bring them into the family. They became Thorns partners first, in part because they wanted to reach female decision makers, in part because they believed in the game. And they then migrated and became timber sponsors also. So it's been an interesting symbiosis, if you will, between partners. Obviously, there's some top-level sponsors that you're not going to sell against, but there are in many categories. We sell a timber sponsor and a thorn sponsor in different same category to different partners. I'd say this, timbers, partners, the value of the assets we sell, more media-driven than the thorns. Our TV ratings and media assets aren't quite yet where the timbers are, and that's obviously pros and cons, but it does allow a lower entry point from some partners. So it's been a great way to bring some new partners in and become timbers partners, and this cross-fertilization that is happening. That's very, very healthy, I think.
Other questions? We got one over
on
here.
the women's game, there's a lot more accessibility, right, to the players, and so brands are able to use that as part of their activation very differently. 100%.
And when you have folks like Karina out there in the community, there's no better way to advertise the experience in your brand than through our athletes.
Go ahead.
And at CONCACAF, we're also creating our own brand, CONCACAF W, and it's the same thing. We're going after different sponsors, but the market has grown now. There are people, like you say, there's more accessibility, the authenticity of the players, and that's what people are starting to really enjoy. So we're doing similar things in creating our own brand and looking for sponsors to really champion the women's game.
Kenneth Newman from Chicago. I've been a big supporter of the growth of the women's game, and I'm curious, and this is for Amanda and for Katrina, when will Canada have a team, or will they have their own league? And do we see a CONCACAF Women's Club Championship, say 5 years down the line?
Do you want to go?
I'll go first. We've had some conversations with different ownership groups in Canada, and work very closely with the Canadian Soccer Association as we have those conversations. We obviously have a strong relationship with the CSA already through our allocation model in NWSL and the financial support that the CSA provides towards those Canadian players. So we certainly see ourselves as partners with Canada in the growth of NWSL and enjoy a very strong relationship, but it does need to make sense in our geographic footprint as we grow and when we really look to make something like that happen. As it relates to club opportunities and additional competitions that we've talked about as a league, and I know that conversation is becoming more prominent on a global scale about more competitions in the women's game. It's something that I know in NWSL there's an interest in, and it's about the timing and the path and the partners in which we do something like that would create revenue and commercial opportunities for our clubs and the league to take advantage of those on a larger scale than just the competition itself.
At the CONCACAF level, so it's 41 countries, but you'd think the travel would be easy, but to get from St. Vincent to Barbados, you may have to go through Miami, and the cost, so it has to make sense. But even what we were talking about, that we want to get more games for our teams nationally and on the club level. We want to get the teams like the Panamas, as we were talking about, who are playing a few games a year, playing more games. So we're looking at the formats of our tournaments. We're looking at different options where we can get more teams playing, yet still allow the teams who have done well to play those top competitions. So we're putting our best teams in the World Cup at the peak of their ability to play. So it's all being looked at, I promise you.
The music's about to play on us, so we'll be around. I know Karina's running for a flight, though, but we've only got about 2 minutes left here. So, yeah.
There's a young lady in the front.
Real quick, yeah.
I also play soccer professionally
Woo!
for the Colombian national team, as well as a club now in Colombia. But we have a league. We have a professional league 2 years ago. The major created this league. FIFA gave money for our league, But the tournament it's 4 months long. Contracts are made 5 months to the players, average player. And then clubs think we are a loss. We are an absolute loss for them. That's why now I'm starting, because I want to prove that we are not a loss, that you can make money with football, with women's football. But what advice would you give to the clubs? Because I think selling women's football it's easy, but you have to know everything about it. Our presidents don't even know the names of the players. They don't know the positions we play. They don't know anything. So if you try to sell a product of which you don't know anything, it's very hard. What advice would you give to Di Mayor and to the Colombian league so we can still have a league? Now this is the point that it's supposed to start in January, and all the newspapers said that there's no league because there's no money, even though FIFA gave money for 3 years. And I don't know what happened with the money, and we're not having a league. So it's hard there. What advice can you give to Di Mayor, I don't know, to the clubs, that we are not a loss? I think you believe in women's football as well as me, but not all of them believe, almost nobody. So what advice?
I'll dive into the player part, because I was there. You have to understand you're a brand, right? And you're an ambassador for the women's sport. So start to speak and use your voice in an inspiring way, because that's how we get people to start paying attention to you. Start using your voice to say, this is who I am every day. Every day, I go to the field, I love the game. Start showing the brand that you want to be, because sometimes we go out fighting and we're like, this is what we need to do, but you separate yourself further. I think you have to look at yourself as an ambassador of the game and start bringing your teammates around and be like, hey, let's control what we can control. Have a conversation. Look to have a conversation with the president. And don't go in there battling, because I think that doesn't find the biggest successes. But you got a professional club to go play for. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, bring them to Portland. That would be my advice. We'll take good care of it.
No, but I think as athletes too, it's difficult, because you know where you want to go, and sometimes you can't get that support. But control what you can control, and I think FIFA is working to improve that. I'll leave the professional side if somebody wants to, but control what you can control. Like, step on the field, play every day. Don't make somebody tell you can't play. Get on the field, play. Surround yourself with women who believe they can play, and that's how you start to do things. And get on social media, and not too much, but get on there and start showing the positives, not the negatives and all the fight and the battle. Start showing the positive of what you can do. That's what I'd suggest as a player.
Very briefly.
Yeah, and I can say, Nicole, I know you from when you were in Spain. I will have a conversation with them. As you know, La Liga has an agreement with Di Mayor, and one of the points is women's football. And yeah, we created some exchange. The champion of Di Mayor came to Spain and played a match. This summer, we went with Atletico Madrid to play over there. And I think, and I spoke to your new president, you have everything to succeed in Colombia, because you saw your finals, I mean, with 33,000 people. It's not about the families, it's not about your friends. It's because when you treat the product on the right way, when you believe and when you invest, the results are there. And I remember before joining FIFA, my last visit was to Colombia. I attended assembly with Di Mayor, with the clubs, and I told them, you need to believe on this. You need to invest. Don't wait for the money to come. And it's not about, okay, if FIFA pays, I create the league. If not, not. That's not the way. We need to find the right partners. We need to find also the right leaders. If we find 1, 2, 3 clubs that I know that they are really interested in the women's game, let's make it happen. I mean, we don't need everyone to be involved. Let's start with the ones that really want to do it. If it's 10 clubs, 10 clubs. But and we can achieve. I mean, all what you see in Spain, all this that we saw 4 years ago, there was nothing, nothing, absolutely nothing. And Spain is a top league in the men's side. It's just about believing, and we had the president that believed in this, right strategy, and invest, and just wait. I mean, the result will come. We are a tsunami. Women's football is a tsunami. I don't know if you agree, but I mean, that's it. I mean, no one will stop us, and it's about starting to work. So yeah, we will work closely, and I will get in touch with you, and if I need to fly to Colombia, and we will sit down with them, and we will push it forward. Yeah.
The power of speaking up, right?
There you go. That's a good way to inspirational message to end on. We'll be around if you want to chat with us afterward. World Cup anything really, La Liga and WSL. Thank you for coming to our session, and enjoy the rest of Soccerex.
Thanks.